are you all doing? Yeah? Who's had coffee? I've had like 4 cups, so I'm not sure if I'm sweating because I'm in heels on a stage and I'm concerned about toppling over or if it's just the caffeine. Raise your hand if you've ever been to the Kearney Center. Oh my goodness. That's exciting. Okay, great. Well, you may know some of this information. Hopefully, we're going to be able to introduce some things to you that you don't already know. We'll start with introductions. My name is Monique Ellsworth. I'm the executive director of the Kearney Center, and with me is Haley McCrary.
I'm the family services coordinator at the Kearney Center.
So we have about 15 minutes to go over the breadth of work that we do. So hang tight with us, and we'll hopefully leave some room at the end for some additional questions or comments you might have. We do want this to be interactive, so I'm going to ask a couple questions, and I will stare, and we will experience the silence together if you don't respond. So who knows the history of the Kearney Center? A couple hands. What do you know about it?
That the homeless shelter started in the nap room of First Presbyterian Preschool.
Yes, ma'am. So true. So the history of homelessness in Tallahassee is actually a very touching story. In 1988, there was a campsite of gentlemen who were sleeping in unsheltered locations. And it gets chilly in Tallahassee, right? Cold, cold nights. On this particular evening, 5 men died in their campsites because they were exposed to the elements. And so when the police came across this campsite, there were 5 dead men. And of course, the Tallahassee community was pretty concerned about this, the fact that literally in shrubbery next to a Publix, it was possible that our neighbors were dying. And the most upheaval largely came from the faith-based community. And there was a lot of discussion, well, what can we possibly do? How is it that we can have people that are living in unsheltered locations, dying from the elements? How can we band together to make sure that that doesn't happen? So what happened was in 1987, First Presbyterian Church downtown opened up one of their basement rooms and repurposed it as an emergency cold night shelter. That was the term that they used, cold night. And actually, that's a term that's still used. What that means is that when the temperatures drop to 34 degrees or below for 4 hours or longer, there's a community discussion about how that is actually a health risk. There's fear of people, again, dying because they're exposed to the elements. And so what the church at that point had done was they determined that they would open up the doors and allow people that were living outdoors to come inside for the night. It operated at First Presbyterian Church for 1 year, and then for the next 3 winters, it opened up at different various city buildings in Tallahassee. And First Presbyterian Church, along with what I've heard is that some representatives with ECHO, which is another faith-based community program in town, would work together to make sure that they could manage and operate the cold night shelter on those chilly, chilly, chilly Tallahassee evenings. In 1991 is when the Tallahassee Leon Shelter was actually incorporated and moved into the building that we all know and existed until about 3 weeks ago. Everyone familiar with where the old shelter used to be on Tennessee Street? Who volunteered there? Who had ever worked at the old shelter? Not that many hands up. So it operated there for about 27 years, and for a while, it was still just a cold night shelter until they started recognizing that more and more men, and then eventually more and more women and families were actually experiencing homelessness in Tallahassee, and the need to actually expand their operating hours was necessary. So, in an effort to kind of meet that need, the hours were expanded. It was open 365 days a year, and with the help of community grants, generous donations from Tallahassee members and volunteer groups, they were able to start serving meals and providing shelter at that location. Guess how many people, so we moved to the next slide is that we actually moved, I don't have to go to it just yet, but the next slide is we actually opened the Kearney Center in 2015. Tell me how many people you think stayed at the shelter on our busiest nights before that move. Just some numbers. 300 people on the busiest night. Not quiet. When we reached 270 people, and we were like minds blown. What are we going to do with 270 people? Tallahassee Shelter, when it was operating at its old location, every single night that there were more than 200 people, we would have to start sleeping people outside. So on those particular evenings, we had 60 men on mats in the backyard. So when it was cold, those men were cold. When it was raining, those men were being rained on. So although we were a shelter, we were at capacity, we were busting from the seams, but there was nothing else that our community could do, so we just continued operating at that location. What kind of services do you think people that are experiencing homelessness might need? Food, mental health, what else? Physical health. Did I hear someone say eye exams? Oh, hygiene and eye exams. What else? Substance abuse, clothing, sleep, identification. So the primary purpose of the homeless shelter was to provide shelter and food. All of the other services were available because of the amazing breadth of social service agencies that exist in Tallahassee. Tallahassee has a wealth of them, right? But they're peppered from county line to county line. So what those agencies were doing where they were driving around trying to identify people that they suspected to be homeless, rolling down their window and trying to engage them in conversations that would lead to those individuals actually accessing those services. Is that very effective? When we think about like cultural competency, are we like profiling people as we drive down the roads in Frenchtown? So the idea was we need to create this one-stop shop model of service where we could have a bunch of different agencies come to one location, and that's what the Renaissance Community Center was. Who was aware of the Renaissance Community Center when it was still located on Virginia Street? Good, okay, there's many, many of you. So that was the first operational objective of that program, was to provide a venue where agency representatives to come into one location, because all the folks that were staying at the shelter, which, mind you, these two programs shared a backyard. So they would leave the shelter in the morning after breakfast, come over to the Renaissance Community Center all day long and receive services. They could meet with DCF, hi Sandy. They were able to meet with Ability First if they needed assistance in applying for disability. They could go to GED classes. They could meet with Appalachia Center if they needed mental health services. They could see Bond if they needed physical health services. All of those agencies were provided in one place. But again, at night, when they'd go back to the shelter, we would have something like 60 men sleeping outside. So eventually, with the collaborative effort of the city of Tallahassee, the county, United Way, public and private funding, we were able to identify the need to go to a new location, which was the Kearney Center. And so many of you guys raised your hand that you've been out there. Why have you gone? Who's gone just for a tour? Who has gone and provided some type of service or has volunteered? Oh, that's amazing. All right, front row, what have you done?
We shared our services there and talked to different people.
So providing just on-site services, that's awesome. Who else? What else have people done over there?
Healthy relationships classes.
Yes, with Refuge House. Okay, great. Anything else? In the back.
Class of 2015 Columbus University donated towels when it first opened.
Fabulous. Okay, such a needed, honestly, towels, it's funny, they grow feet and walk out, so we constantly need those. Yes, ma'am.
I was able to cook in the kitchen to provide a meal, and I took water during the hurricane.
Amazing. Okay, yeah, so we in addition to just the shelter, we provide the one-stop shop options where we still engage those community members to come in. We provide meals and engage people from the community to help in that. Guess how many meals we're serving a day now? I heard a lot. 900. 900 meals a day, isn't that wild? So I mentioned that before we actually moved to the new facility, our blow your mind number of people that were staying overnight with us is 270. What do you think the highest number of people is that we've served since we opened? 421 4 weeks ago. 421 people. There's a lot of debate as to whether we are attracting individuals to our facility, or if perhaps these are people in our community that have always needed these services but haven't known where to go or been brave enough to go where they've actually needed the services. And so my opinion is that we are here, we're available, and our doors are open, and we're attracting people that have, for a very long period of time, needed these services, which are now available to them. The Kearney Center, if you haven't been there, it's a 36,000 square foot facility. We partner with over 25 agencies in our community to come in and provide services. We also engage our community and ask people to just volunteer, knitting classes, art classes, animal therapy. We have meditation and yoga. We have quantum touch therapy that people are able to do. And that's helps us provide from Monday morning until Sunday night over 50 different programs that engage people during the day at our facility. Marie Vandenberg, she's the director of Hope Community, which is right across the street from us. Go, Marie. She's an amazing pioneer for serving all the families in our community, and that's a differentiation that I want to be able to make, is at the Kearney Center, we serve just single men and women. At Hope Community with Marie, they're serving all the families. Marie, I usually on my tours say that you have about 115 children. Is that somewhere in the ballpark?
We're serving about 115 kids every day. At a 147-bed facility, we're serving over 200 people every day. So we have that in common.
Yes, we do have that in common. Lots of folks in need of services. And the way that we want to make sure that we are able to reach out to Bree's population is that in addition to all the social services that we provide on site, we recognize that moms and families need different things. There are different services that are going to best support family units. And so what we've tried to do is understand in our community what exists and how can we, like we've done with all the other projects that we do, bring them to the Kearney Center to provide services. One thing that I can say about the Kearney Center is that it's not possible without our partners. The Kearney Center did not create any new wheels. We did not create something new. We built a table and invited people to sit at it. And so what we try to do, and with Haley's pioneering, is we were able to develop a program at the Kearney Center that allowed us to open our doors to families to try and serve the unique needs that they might have. So Haley was the one that started this program, has developed it, has grown it, has networked with many individuals in this room, and my hat goes off to her to try and serve the population that the Kearney Center wasn't initially focused on, but now has grown an additional seat at the table and have invited people to partner on that. So a round of applause for Haley for doing that for us. There you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Monique. I just wanted to talk briefly about the Compass program. So formally, it emerged March 2016. So it's been about a year that we've been operating as Compass Family Services, which is a program that operates out of the Kearney Center. So even though it officially kind of began about a year ago, for about 2 years prior to that, conversations started happening among a lot of professionals in the community who work with children, people from the faith community who are daycare providers, just social workers, lots of different people who wanted to come together to talk about how we could best support families experiencing homelessness or some kind of economic hardship in Tallahassee. So we started meeting and talking about, what could we do, especially without a budget, what can we do to further support families in our community? So even though we started off with different plans and it kind of morphed into something that we didn't expect, we started off with a parent support group at the Kearney Center, and that also duplicated after a while. And the point of the parent support group was to provide parent self-care, education on child development, family resources, that type of thing, so that families, could come and sit at a table and talk about, what's going on and what the struggles are of, trying to raise your child in a shelter, and how there's not a whole lot of reprieve from, raising children sometimes, and the stresses associated with homelessness or being low income or trying to get through a pregnancy. So that's one thing that we've been having. In addition, I provide family case management. So that means a lot of times partnering again with Hope Community to get families connected with housing. Shout out to Breon House, Bethany House, Hope Community, because those are a great deal of our family resources in town. So I provide that information and education as well. Also, baby items. New parents can never get enough diapers and wipes and formula, and anybody that has a kid or works with families knows how freaking expensive that stuff is. So solely based on donations, we've been able to give out like 3,000 diapers, 3,000 wipes, 60 cans of formula, countless books, baby clothes, children's clothes, that kind of thing. So for anybody in this room that maybe has donated things or just partnered with me, I very much appreciate it. So those are some of the things that we provide at the Kearney Center for families. And with that said, wink, wink, yeah. None of this could have been possible without incredible community partners, kind of in keeping with the Kearney Center philosophy about, you know, all kind of working together as a unit in our community. I work with these agencies, and probably a lot more that aren't on this list, for the common goal of empowering parents to raise healthy, happy kids. So again, this is probably not as extensive as it could be, but partners like Big Bend Homeless Coalition, Early Learning Coalition, Help Me Grow, Whole Child Leon, Head Start, you see the rest of them on this list, but we've been able to do some really cool things. I think that as agencies, we know that we're not able to do it all on our own. Like, we have limited resources, we have shoestring budgets, sometimes we have skeleton staffs. But together, I think we can achieve a common goal of supporting families in our community. Thank you.